ABC News, Fair Work Australia.
News Limited Chief John Hartigan has rejected claims the company is waging a campaign against the federal government. The outgoing boss of News Limited made the comments at the government's media inquiry in Sydney yesterday. Well, former chairman of the Australian Broadcasting Authority and the Press Council, Professor David Flint, spoke to the inquiry today, and he joins us in the studio. David Flint, thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
What was discussed at the inquiry today?
Well, the judge treated me with a great courtesy, and it was a very informal hearing, and what he essentially asked were a number of questions. For example, could there be a media council which would encompass the Press Council but bring in the other forms of media? And I recall that I had in fact written along those lines some years ago. I see nothing wrong with that and everything good with that, provided that it's all voluntary.
So in your view, is greater regulation of the media required?
Not at all, not at all. This would be just extending an aspect of independent regulation, offering it to complainants if they wished, because the Press Council process is informal, it's effective, and it's speedy, and it has certain advantages which may appeal to some complainants. This would not be, in my view, in substitution of the existing process, but an alternative avenue.
But of course, the Press Council, for instance, has in the past, as you well know, been described as a toothless tiger. So you reject those assertions?
I do. The imposition that the Press Council offers is another voice in the market, as it were, so that people who feel that their voice didn't get through or something was said was wrong do have recourse because the adjudication of the Press Council is published. But before that, there are many avenues for mediation which the Press Council offers, quite often bringing people together, bringing the editor and the complainant together. A solution is quite often found which avoids any confrontation and which is satisfactory to both of them.
Can I ask you about the assertion that News Limited has waged a campaign against the government? Do you subscribe to that theory?
Well, which government? I think they waged...
certainly to the current government, and certainly the Labor government is complaining.
Yes, they certainly waged a campaign against the Howard government, and they came in very hard. The AWB, for example, the Children Overboard affair, all those things were quite often voiced first and strongest in news. I think news sees its role as questioning the government. I don't think they've treated... In fact, I think in the initial period of the Rudd government, they treated the Rudd government with kid gloves until after the G20 affair when the Prime Minister was speaking to the President and that story escaped about the President not knowing what the G20 was. After that, they seemed to become stronger in relation to the government. I don't see News Limited conducting an especially harsh campaign.
Does the Murdoch press, though, have too much power in this country, do you believe?
I don't think so in the slightest.
Despite the ownership issues, certainly in some states, it's very close to blanket coverage for the Murdoch press.
Certainly, if you only look at the print media, but I think in this modern day and age, when, for example, Essential Media, which is a polling company essentially union-oriented, found that 30% of people get their news from the evening television broadcasts and 30% from the internet. They don't get much of their news from newspapers. Newspapers now feed a minority audience. So, and the fact is that Murdoch got that power or numbers through attrition, through other newspapers closing. For example, all of the afternoon newspapers closed throughout Australia because people didn't buy them.
And just quickly, do you think greater regulation is needed in the future with the advent of social media and, of course, digital media that is upon us?
I think there is a need for more voices, and I think technology will provide that. And I don't think there's any need at all for more regulation.
Professor David Flint, thanks very much.
Thank you.